Hello everyone. So this week I'm going to have a bit of a short Dvar Torah, and it's going to be about Tish'a Be'av, not about the Parsha. Part of the reason is, aside the fact that Tish'a Be'av is coming up, and sort of I like to do things that have to do with with the holidays, not only with the Parsha, is that this is currently a pretty busy period for me. Sort of like finishing up things that have to do with my thesis and other personal events. So I'm going to keep it short, and just so that we don't sort of miss a week. But hopefully today you'll be able to sort of finish up early and spend an additional 10-15 minutes you wouldn't have had otherwise. So I want to talk about something that is a very well-known idea that has to do with Tish'a Be'av, and that is the distinction between Volute Yeshana and Volute Chadasha, old and new mourning. Mourning as in not sort of mourning in the day, but mourning as in to mourn over something that is lost. As you know, in Tish'a Be'av we mourn over the loss of the temple. But it's really not only the temple, it's part of a sequence of several fasts, which begin in Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, or maybe Asar B'Tevet, depending what you understand of what has to do with Asar B'Tevet. Continues on to Tish'a Be'av when the Mikdash was destroyed, and Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, the city of Jerusalem was put under siege, and then finishing up in Tzom Gedalia in Tishrei, which is when the last remaining sort of sovereignty in Israel was dispersed, and Salat Tabet may either be when things begun or when the rumor of the final destruction arrived to all the people outside of Israel. But what's interesting is how in what we call the 3 weeks, which start from Yud Zayin B'Tammuz all the way up to Tish'a Be'av, there's this progression where we first we stop shaving. Some of us do shave for work, but if we don't need to go to work or our workplace allows it, we stop shaving. And then when it comes to the 9 days, there's additional restrictions that have to do with not eating meat, and leading up to Tish'a Be'av. And I'm not going to go in here to all the different restrictions and the different sections in those restrictions. So we see that there's this progression where we sort of start off slow and we build up towards a crescendo when we get to Tish'a Be'av, where we really sort of torment ourselves by not eating and not drinking and not doing anything that makes us happy during the day, until the middle of the day when we start to sort of relax a little bit. And those of us who sit on the floor during the first half of the day sit on once the half day passes, when Chatzot happens, we can sort of start sitting on couches, etc., etc. And this is all called a Volute Yeshana, old mourning. And it's called that way because we're mourning over something that's old. It's not something fresh. It's not that somebody that we know has passed away right now before our eyes. Rather, we're trying to remember something old that happened. On the other hand, when we have a Volute Chadasha, when we have the standard regular mourning where somebody that's close to us has passed away, there we have something that can be seen as the opposite phenomenon. We start off with a very intense period of mourning, which is the first day you're not even supposed to do any mitzvot, similar to what we do on Tish'a Be'av, where we don't put on tefillin in the morning. You're not supposed to do these things also on your first day of mourning. Then we go into the Shiva, and the Shiva has some similarities to what happens sort of during the 9 days or the week of Tish'a Be'av. And then we go into the 30 days, in which we don't shave, just like the 3 weeks. And then we go into the year. And it's a very interesting phenomenon that we sort of see the opposite sort of flow. Whereas with a Volute Yeshana, we start off slow and we build up towards an event, which is the Tish'a Be'av. With a Volute Chadasha, With a new morning, we do the opposite. We start off very powerfully, and then we gradually sort of reduce the intensity of what we feel. And it's not surprising, right? Meaning, this is sort of, once we think about it this way, we can see how this is actually very expected and very logical. Because when it comes to mourning over somebody that we love that just passed away, then naturally we feel the power of the event. And so we don't need anybody to make us feel to mourn. We just need Allah to help us channel that, and sort of, how do we release that emotion? How do we channel it? What do we do with it from a halachic perspective? And so Allah gives us these sort of gradual steps of, slowly but surely releasing, expressing our mourning through these different steps. But when it comes to Tish'a Be'av, then we don't naturally feel the mourning. We don't naturally feel sad about the mikdash not being around. Intellectually, cerebrally, we understand that it's bad. We understand that there is something, some sort of an ideal existence that we are not taking part of, and that we would wish to be part of once again. Ideal both religiously and nationally, but it's only intellectual, right? It's a very, very old memory. It's a national memory, but not something that we can personally relate to on a daily basis or on an immediate level. So when that happens, halacha does the opposite. Halacha tries to build up this sense of mourning over time. It says, okay, we'll start slow, and we'll gradually increase, the level of mourning, in order for you to also internalize this in your actions. So we see over here halacha functioning in two very different ways. In the case of a new mourning, we see halacha as trying to sort of contain the existing emotion, this very powerful, very natural emotion that would just erupt from us, but have no structure. Allah tries to give it some sort of structure. Hopefully with structure comes also meaning, because meaning always comes sort of from that kind of structure. And because structure sort of delineates where things start and end. It says how much, sort of it tells us what are the boundaries of our mourning. How far can we go? Okay, are we a culture where we allow us to maim ourselves when we're sad, or do we only say goodbye and move on, or somewhere in the middle, right? So that's what I mean when I say that the structure of halacha gives what we feel naturally meaning. But in the case of old mourning, we don't have that natural feeling. So here halacha is not trying to contain an existing emotion, it's trying to create that emotion. It's trying to put us in a certain frame of mind so that we connect on an emotional level to what we understand intellectually. So you can think of in that sense, it's exactly the opposite, not only in terms of the chronological order, where one starts out from the rim and sort of works its way towards the center, towards a more powerful event, but also in the sense that that build-up is only because of the halachic structure. It's not just signifying an existing build-up. It's actually creating that structure. So, without further ado, I think I'll just finish up over here and wish us all a very very meaningful Tish'a Be'av, one where we first of all, of course, pass it without any serious health problems, and with our kids letting us, for those of us with kids, our kids letting us fast and sort of take in the day, and a day where we can really sort of take in the journey we started 2.5 weeks ago, and really sort of internalize the messages and realize that we are still waiting for that, to return to that great glory which was what we were 2,000 years ago. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, and have an easy fast.